I haven't even pushed on the one. I put like two together. Okay, you ready?
Oh, now we actually do clap?
Yeah. Hello everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of Frank's Conversation, where the two of us sit around and talk about circular economy. Before we get into the episode, we'll have to go to some of the announcements. The first announcement that I want to do is I want to say happy birthday to Noah. I hope you have a wonderful day, or you had a wonderful day since it's the evening now. And we hope to see you soon on this show with us on the podcast. As always enjoyed talking to you and picking your brain around circular economy. Second announcement, I will pass over to Diana.
Hello everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode. Although we will not be releasing these episodes live, as we are kind of limited to recording them while our kids are in bed, we will be streaming them on Mondays and Tuesdays, where we will be live in the chat to answer any questions that you may have while listening. And we will be uploading them to YouTube the following day on Wednesday, as well as uploading them to Frank's personal website, where you can find the link below. We hope that you enjoy this episode, and remember that we will be releasing these episodes bi-weekly.
And with that, let's start into the episode. But welcome back.
Welcome back. We didn't leave.
Oh yeah, it's the intro.
Oh, okay. I think that I'm supposed to start here because
You are.
I thought that the most fitting question to start this podcast off would be, what is circular economy? And I have nobody better to answer that question than Frank.
Oh, besides of yourself.
Well, I think there's nobody better to answer that question than Frank.
I think by now your ears are probably bleeding with all this topic, as I know you every day about it.
For the past 6 years? 5 years?
Is it 6 years?
Yeah, it is 6 years.
5.5 years.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah.
So I have become somewhat of an expert. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, is anyone in circular economy expert? Well, there are some, I guess.
Yeah.
There's some of those huge points that just are. I actually had a discussion today with Luc about, Luc's father, Michel Mackel, who has been the head of the Luxembourgish Börse. How you say it in English? I apologize for not knowing the English
Stock
term.
exchange?
Yes.
Ah,
For many years.
my Luxembourgish was very good.
It was
as you can
German,
tell.
but that's similar
My
at
German
least.
is not so great.
But we are talking about the new amendments that are going into the AIF and UCIT, so the funds, Manco companies, so management companies for funds, and they were talking about how complex and how widespread these sustainability amendments to the regulations that are going on, and we were talking about like it's there's always once in a lifetime in different places where you have these minds that come about and are able to see the big vision, the big creation, the big systemic view of a future and of a creation of a new system that can then lead to a different way of how we act in certain do things. Yeah. And I think that's also where the circular economy came from. I mean, where did the circular economy came from? And there we go wide into the question you had, what is a circular economy? But it's a very deep question. So you can really go into detail about what the circular economy is, or you can take a step back and try to simplify the whole thing and say, okay, what is a circular economy in very simple terms and quick, a few sentences. And I think that's really the challenge of the circular economy, because it's a very wide ecosystem, macro perspective view on how our ecosystem, I don't want to use the word sustainability, but how our ecosystem comes it from economy to society to environment can act together in order to create something that is sustainable for the future in that sense. But in very
brief,
what is circular economy? The circular economy is a new economic system that can work in relations with the society and the environment to create something that is sustainable.
Okay. But I do think that the best way of starting off with a definition for somebody who's new to this topic is to know it in its brief explanation, right? Which is a very complex thing to do, is to break that down as somebody who knows so much about something. Right? And like the simplest.
Thank you very much.
No, but I mean the simplest. It's like when you are somebody who's so.
Yeah, it takes very much talent to break a complex thing into a simplistic thing.
Very much so, right? Like.
And yeah, so not saying that I'm doing a good job or be able to do a good job, but I will try. But in essence, the circular economy is rethinking our economic system from the ground up. Currently, we are living in a linear economy, which takes resources, does something with it, uses it, and then discards it.
Yeah.
The circular economy, in essence, looks at it in a different way.
Yeah.
It looks at our economical system in the same way than our natural system, as the way our globe works. So, for example, biomimicry. In nature, nutrients and materials are taken, something is created, something is discarded. But the discarding of it is reused. It's not waste. It's not something that's created waste, but waste equals nutrients. So our whole definition of waste is misrepresented in regards to in our human-made system versus our nature-made system. Well, now already you can see I'm already going into the deep. I'm already taking a long way out in order to trying to go to complex. So in very simplistic terms, we are trying to eliminate waste in order to create a system that doesn't create waste anymore, because everything we create is an input for something else.
Okay.
I think that was the best way I explained it in 2 sentences in my whole life.
There you go. You're welcome. I forced that out of you.
Yeah. We take, make, use, discard in linear economy. Now we make, use, reuse.
Yeah. Okay. What about recycling? How is that into it? Because everybody, I mean, to be completely honest, when you hear anything about circular economy or sustainability, although I know that they are different things, you hear somebody talk about recycling.
So first of all, they are not different things.
They're not.
It's just that nowadays sustainability is used a lot of times for greenwashing and recycling.
It's also kind of a bit buzzword at the moment, right?
So it's
like disruption was beforehand, like disrupting.
Or still is.
Well, okay.
Still is.
Okay.
I'm working in consulting and digital consulting a lot.
Okay. So disrupt the.
So we're still using it a lot.
And, but it is a bit of a buzzword. Although it is an important...
Yeah, it is a very important thing.
Yeah.
And it's one of the key economic drivers is disrupting the systems that we are being at right now. Circular economy is the disruptive way of doing business. If you right now go into an established system or established sector and you create a circular economy business model in an established sector, you're going to disrupt the system.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's okay.
By being sustainable.
Okay.
So you use
now you're throwing in 2 buzzwords.
Yeah, that's my point. But it's not. But if you take these words in essence in their main definition of what they are, that is also what the circular economy is. Yeah. Circular economy is sustainability in its essence. And here we come into a very interesting topic, which is one of my favorite people that I listen to and read his books and listen almost all of his speeches is George Lakoff.
I've heard you talk about him before.
Yeah, it's incredible his ability to kind of combine neuroscience, psychology with real world appliance of these topics and demonstrate the value of the words and the framework that we use in our language in order to convey a certain message.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get into too many political topics, but on the other hand, it's one of the topics that really are I'm very interested in. So
I'm passionate about.
Yeah, but there's a certain and just a short example of how you can use words, because it's I think very important about circular economy in essence. I apologize. In essence. But let's look at taxes. Let's look at taxes. Taxes are mainly looked in general population as a negative thing.
Yeah, like an increase in taxes people get upset about.
Because you increase in taxes, we're trying to diminish the burden on the middle class when we reduce taxes. Mm-hmm. Think about the words I just used. Diminish the burden on the middle class by reducing taxes.
Yeah.
What are taxes in this sentence?
Are you asking me?
Yeah. What are the feeling that you have in regards to taxes by using these words? I just used my sentence. And this is probably the most common used phrase by politicians to get voted.
So are you asking me what taxes are or how I feel about that
about how you feel about taxes when I use one of the most common sentences used for taxes. Decrease the burden of the middle class by reducing
you
taxes.
Put a negative light on taxes in that situation. Like
But are taxes really negative in its essence if you use the money that comes in from these taxes quite well?
That's exactly it. No, because the money that you are paying into taxes are going into infrastructure. They're going into road work. They're going into...
You're a parent. What do they go in?
Well, sorry. An example of what they should be going into.
Yeah, but I'm just telling you, for you personally...
Yes.
I'll tell you, I would use your taxes.
They're going into childcare.
I would use your taxes, but that's why I have to take away
government
educators.
Yes.
To educators in your school.
Yeah.
Like this is that. Now, not saying like I'm not trying to make a political statement that we have to increase tax. Not at all.
Yeah.
This is not my point. I'm not trying to get into any of these discussions because I think there's many more complexities. It depends on which country. So just want to make this clear.
Yes.
My only point that I was trying to make here is that words that you use will give a certain feeling to people. So in the circular economy, because you were
So the way
talking
you
about
frame the words that you're
Yes,
using, or
the
the frame
framework.
the questions that you
Exactly.
are making.
And one of the things that you actually
Or
told me a
asking.
couple of days ago that I thought was very interesting is that it's not just about the framing and the words you use, but it is as much about the words you don't use.
Yeah.
And coming back to actually, since we like to take circles around things in circular
it's a
economy, it makes
conversation,
sense.
right?
Exactly.
It's a
But
conversation.
coming back to the word about sustainability and circular economy, well, for many, many years, until I think last year or even this year, sustainability has not been put into the same level as circular economy, but on purpose has been split fully. Separated, thank you.
Yeah.
Separated fully because of the buzzword of sustainability, the greenwashing that came with sustainability, and especially about the impact that the word sustainability had on business leaders. Because once you use sustainability in business leaders, the main reaction was, oh, well, that's just going to cost us money to put into charities.
So it kind of lost its accountability in terms of
Exactly.
circular economy approach and wanting to probably establish that, okay, we are the same thing, but we're not the same thing. So, or we're not what it's being used as now when you're talking about sustainability.
Yeah. Fully. And,
which is important when sustainability is a word that's been around for a long time, but circular economy is not necessarily. So when you're trying to get people to learn about something, you don't want them to immediately in their brain say, oh, that's sustainability. No. We want you to create your own understanding of circular economy without just kind of immediately saying, no, I'm putting it into the same category as sustainability. Yeah. Then afterwards you can connect the dots yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Fully.
Yeah.
Because also there's many different points to grab on here in order to continue this conversation. But let me take just two of them. So the first one is that sustainability in general has been currently, when you are trying to be sustainable, you're trying to reduce the negative impacts you have. Yes. Whereas in the circular economy, it's not about reducing the negative impact by recycling, but it's about creating positive impacts with what you do. So that's the first thing. The second thing is sustainability is trying to be green and, as I said, reduce negative impact by trying to be doing something good by planting a couple of trees. By you plant 5 trees, but you demolish 100 trees in the meantime. So it's about sustainability, is often about environment. But the main definition and the main where sustainability comes from, it's not environment by itself, but sustainability is built upon the ecosystem. So you have the economy in the middle, you have society in the middle. You have economy. You have the economy, the small circle in the middle. You have the economy around it, and then you have the environment, which is the outer layer of it. So these 3 layers are the core of what sustainability makes out. And if you think about the Ellen MacArthur Foundation logo, for example, 3 circles. Yeah. Well, that's what they represent. And they just put a bit off to have their own spin on it.
But also the definition of sustainability is creating something that is lasting in the future, correct? Like creating something, like a business model that's sustainable, or a product that's sustainable, or something that's being able to last in the future. And that is connected to circular economy. That is where you can find also that like you said, the 3 circles, but also that vision of creating something that is long lasting, as opposed to having a very clear end of life in sight.
Yeah. So what is the word? You have studied also English, the language. So what is?
Yes, I have.
What does sustainable mean?
What is sustainable? I thought that's kind of what I've answered, right? Something that...
It's a long-term stability that survives.
Yes. Right. Something that is long-lasting and is durable.
Yeah. So what has that to do with environment only? If you want to have a sustainable business, are you going to be sustainable, long-lasting and surviving if the environment or the society doesn't support or sustain it?
No.
So if you want to have, especially nowadays, where we can see these different tornadoes, fires, and all the impacts of climate change coming up, if you want to have a sustainable business, you have to respect all three circles.
Yes. But now you're going into where you're looping climate change in with circular economy or into this discussion. And that's another common misconception. Not that they don't have anything to do with each other. They do, clearly.
Fully.
But when somebody hears circular economy, it's like either sustainability or that's climate change. And it's like, well, no. And don't get me wrong, in the last couple of years, especially, climate change has really started to catch on, that people are understanding that there is a real problem, and that this is not just something that people or politicians are saying and blah blah blah. Again, don't want to get political in this, but if you're listening to this podcast, and I hope that you believe in climate change. I beat him to it.
Yeah, we really apologize. As you can see, this is our first episode, so we have some technical issues here. But if I'm correct, as we try to kind of look back into where the video stopped, we are talking about climate change and circular economy. First of all, this little break, as we had to reset up everything, might have been quite good, because we realized we haven't answered the main question: what is circular economy? Although in some ways the discussion is about what circular economy is
and what it's not. Going back to George Lakoff, right?
Yes. You are fully right. And please check out George Lakoff's speeches, especially the speech when he talks about art education. It's fascinating, and if you're in any kind of way interested in psychology,
Okay, you're getting off topic again.
But it's just, I'm sorry, I'm a big fan.
I know you are.
I'm
Stop
really a big
fan.
fan.
Girl, start talking.
Yeah, I'm a
just
fan.
Kidding.
So where we were talking about climate change and circular economy, and once again we're coming back to the discussions of framing, and the fact that circular economy in essence has not been on purpose compared also or taken hand in hand with climate change until 2019, last year, where finally it got decided to kind of taken up upon these different topics. And talking about this fact, I have also seen a lot of commentaries, articles, videos, speeches about talking that circular economy does not tackle the aspect of societal impact in an economy like the circular economy.
Okay.
But once again, here, it always comes back to the same point. Yes, the circular economy does take that into perspective, but there was a purpose not been a deep dive into this consideration of the societal impact, because you have to start somewhere.
Okay.
If you create a new ecosystem, in essence, you cannot just come and okay, this, but things have to be developed over time. And so on.
But of course, it takes that into consideration.
Of course.
That's the whole point, is changing it so that everything is running better.
Yeah,
right?
100%. If you also trying to take into consideration the environment, that has an impact on the society. Once again, we come back to the three circles of this, the sustainability, the definition of sustainability.
Yeah.
But once again, circular economy is an ecosystem. And what we haven't maybe really talked about or impacted touched on, thank you, is the fact of the circular economy in its essence. Why it looks at the macro perspective view is because the systemic thinking.
Okay.
You have to look at the macro perspective before you look at the details. What is the impact?
So macro perspective versus the micro perspective, maybe, right?
Correctly.
Okay.
100% correctly.
Correct.
In the linear economy currently in our thinking, the way we think right now, we look at, okay, what are the different parts and then what do they do? Versus the systemic thinking looks at, okay, what is the question, why do we do it? before we look at how do we do it.
Okay.
So you have to look at the macro perspective views. Look, what do you want to create before looking into certain details? And the reason why I say this is because there's a lot of different impacts. And here we go to the commonly used butterfly effect, meaning that if you kill a butterfly in one place, that has a long-term impact on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
And people often say like, that might be true in certain ways, but make fun of it. But in essence, it is correct.
Yeah.
Things we do in our business, the impacts we do has effect on everything else. There are interlinkages in our economy that has ecosystem-wide impact. And KPMG made a fantastic study where they analyzed or identified 10 mega trends that developed from the linear economy. And I won't be able to tell you all 10 mega trends right now, but I'll try to as far as possible. Urbanization, deforestation, water scarcity, material scarcity. Did I say urbanization? I'm not sure.
Yes.
Climate change, wealth, and we don't mean wealth is wealth distribution.
Yeah.
As I said, I won't be able, like, out of my head.
You got 6, so that's pretty good.
That's not pretty bad, and I'm sure if you give me
it's
10
not
more
pretty
seconds,
bad.
it's not pretty bad.
It's not half bad.
Thank you. It's not half bad. You're right. It's no more than that. It's crazy when you talk, you lose your
Train of thought.
You lose your train of thought.
Well, that also might tell you that we're kind of running off of course.
Yes, fully.
You were talking about the megatrends, and the...
Actually, that's full on course.
Is it?
Yeah, 100%.
Well, maybe then
The circular economy, the whole circular economy, in fact, is about the interlinkages and the impacts it has on the whole ecosystem.
Exactly,
and in fact,
versus
to look at it looked at the systemic impacts of the things that you do. That is what the circular economy is about. So we are fully on topic.
Good job, Frank.
Thank you. So we look at the macro perspective view. The only thing is that most people, that's fine, and that's great. But the main question it always comes to, and the main question I get asked day by day is, great, thank you, and how can I now do something?
Yeah.
And how can I make money? Because I'm not changing my business. The thing that I build up with my family.
If it's successful and doing well, right? Like, why change something that's
why
working?
did I do something that my family built up over the last even 150, 20 years, and we are successful? Why would I invest
150, 20 years? Are you going like...
No, but seriously, they're like
20, 50,
SMEs, small, medium enterprise, family-owned companies
for a long time.
that have been going for so long. Because I'm not talking about these huge companies, because these huge companies, these huge companies, they're investing money into developing different departments in the circular economy. Lego have just signed an agreement with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation a week or 2 weeks ago. We have talked about it actually.
Weeks ago.
I even posted something on LinkedIn, so follow me on LinkedIn.
Why not, right?
What a nerd. But anyway, they have signed a deal with the MacArthur Foundation, kind of how they can deal is hard to say, but the collaboration.
Is that for the CE100?
I'm actually not sure this is CE100, but they have signed a contract or collaboration, an MOU, or however you want to, a memorandum of understanding, how they develop together a circular economy for Lego. Nike,
all the way as like
Cisco,
packaging,
Adidas,
all the way to their product. Correct?
They all investing into departments because they have the money and the potential to do it.
Yes.
But these are Philips. Philips is one of the great examples. PayPal.
Yeah.
But Philips is a little bit different still, because, and I will come back to it in a second.
That's product as a service, correct?
But they're all trying to invest in product. So Apple as well. These companies all have the money to invest into departments to build up a circular economy, go with that usual business, make their money, develop circular economy until they're ready to go, probably keep it behind closed doors to a certain degree also say they're doing it and stuff, because there is a certain grassroots movements currently going on at least in the liberal world, if I can say this without getting too political here, the liberal world into moving towards a circular economy, a sustainable economy.
Yeah.
But the main impact are the family-owned or SMEs, so small to medium enterprises.
Yeah.
These are the companies that would drive the local economies, the local businesses.
Which is a huge part of the circular economy, right? Is
the main part.
Yeah.
How can you have a circular economy when you
are outsourcing?
When you
everything,
take resources from India, ship them to Europe, ship them to China, or ship them to Europe, create maybe small products, something, ship them to China, create something else, ship them back to Europe to then sell them.
Yeah.
How with all this transportation can you say that you're circular?
Yeah.
Luxembourg, which I think in essence, and I'm from Luxembourg, so I'm a bit biased, but also with my experience working as a research manager in the Cities and Governments Group in the MacArthur Foundation, also my experience, Luxembourg is pretty, at least strategically, and what they want to do pretty forward thinking when it comes to circular economy. But even Luxembourg, when it comes to the wood industry,
when you look at the carbon footprint of Luxembourg, it's quite
high, but there's a lot of different arguments where we don't have to get into.
Fair enough.
In essence, taxes are very low. So a lot of people from because it's very small, so a lot of people come from different countries, get their gas, get their alcohol, and a lot of bad things in Luxembourg, and then go back to their own countries and have the footprint in their own countries. But the impact is still done in Luxembourg because we have low taxes on gas on things.
Yeah.
So, but as a country, so there's a lot of political discussions here, and understandable decisions taken governmentally, which are not always beneficial. But where I want to comment is, like, for example, the wood industry in Luxembourg and the greater region, which is Luxembourg, Belgium, and Germany.
And France and Netherlands, so you have that.
Well, there's Benelux and there's the greater region, which is part of Belgium, Germany, France, and Luxembourg.
Yeah.
And when you look at the wood industry, there's different levels of wood that gets taken for manufacturing.
Yeah.
And a lot of the wood that gets taken is shipped to China, where they make low level. So the low level, if you can say that, of wood gets shipped to China, where they make certain products. If it's a toilet paper, is it kitchen paper and stuff like this, and then get shipped back to Luxembourg and then sold at the supermarkets.
Yeah.
Whereas, how? Because it makes economically sense.
To outsource that, so it's cheaper.
It's cheaper to send it to China, make toilet paper out of the wood, then send it back.
Than to do that. Locally.
So and so coming back to those SMEs and to locally and family-owned businesses, how will they survive if they are locally sourced? And let's go to the simplest. So locally sourced toilet paper, which is green and sustainable and made of recycled paper, is more expensive than the wood that gets sent to China and come back. So there has to be, and we come back. Just 1 second, I apologize, but we have to come back to the ecosystem.
Yes.
Regulations.
Yep.
Businesses, transportation, all of this. And that's why we have been talking, why it has not 100% been able to answer these questions, what is circular economy, because it's a macroscopic ecosystemic view. It's cheaper to send something half across the world to produce something, then send it back. It's cheaper than when it's locally sourced from trash. How is that even possible?
Yeah, well,
sorry, I get very passionate.
But this is a discussion and a question that, I don't really want to bring this up, but in recent, when you're looking at the global pandemic, this got brought up a lot because we were in a situation where borders were closed and factories were, being shut down, or products were not being shipped because of this. And it was a question that came up a lot, like, why are all of our products then coming from China? And I'm not saying anything against China. We're not talking, and we're not talking about, like, we're also talking about China then having their own, like, this is everywhere in the world. Has nothing to do with China. It's the fact that outsourcing everything that's coming into your country out to another place is just, it doesn't make sense.
Another question is dependency. Political, also when we talk about political dependency.
Yes.
Where do resources come from? Does Europe have a lot of resources?
Yes.
Not material resources, not first grade resources from the earth.
Fair enough.
Where does metals, gold, and all these diamonds come from, and all these different things that gold is used in your iPhone screen?
Yeah.
Where does it come from? Not from Europe.
Yeah.
So how can we in Europe be sustainable when everything has to be outsourced? It can't be. Unless we create a circular economy where we reuse our own waste. Or since waste is not waste in the circular economy anymore, waste is nutrient for other things.
Fairly good example of this would be kind of like Iceland.
I do apologize. I don't know enough about the Iceland economy, how they do it. I know that they use 100%, almost all of their energy. That not 100%. I don't know, but most of their energy.
They use 100%. 100% of their energy is created on that island, and it is what fuels the entire country.
The economy, the energy.
And it's interesting. And when you look at I think it's like the emissions from what they produce is 3% versus like 67% in the US, or it is crazy. Like, I mean, and that is something which is really interesting because it's not always been like that. This has only happened since like the 1970s. So it's possible to change systems. And, that's a perfect example of how to work with what you have in your resources. And obviously each country is different, what's available. But that's where we're talking about creating a system that works within your economy.
What is really interesting though is about this whole thing we're talking about. And at the end, the circular economy is called circular economy for a reason.
Yeah.
Because it's not called circular sustainability.
No.
But it's called circular economy because at the end of fact, the only way it will work if it makes economically sense for companies.
Yeah.
So coming back to the asset, like to this locally, to those SMEs and to the small enterprise family-owned companies, it's the fact that the circular economy was built upon economy onto making sense about how you can make money about different kind of green than the greenwashing or green sustainability, but the green talking about money.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? You have to rethink the concept. Let's take a manufacturing because that's probably the easiest way to explain. So let's look at the manufacturing things. In order to be circular economy, be sustainable, and when I talk about sustainable, I talk about not just environmentally sustainable with greenish sustainable, but being also business sustainable.
Yes, of course.
And society sustainable and environment sustainable, talking about 3 circles, is that you have to rethink from the beginning, from the start, the design of your product. And this is a core thing of the circular economy, the design of your product. Yeah. You have to design in order to keep the value of the product the highest possible for the longest time during your usage phase.
Okay.
Why? Because in the circular economy, we're talking about performance economy developed by Walter Stahl, meaning you don't sell a product anymore, but you sell a service. You don't sell furniture or a phone anymore. Let's go to the Philips example. It's probably the easiest one. It's one that's used quite often, but I think for the essence of it, it's probably good to explain. Let's go to Philips. You don't sell light bulbs anymore. But what you sell is smart lighting for the next 10 years.
So lighting always.
Always light. You have light. Let's take another example.
Don't you think that's just like so much better though? No, I have to say, I think that always is a good example because for example, our house, okay, we just renovated it 2 years ago, yet we are having problems in our kitchen. No, what I'm just saying with pot lights. And if you had product as a service, it literally just notify somebody that like a light is out and they come.
Well,
okay.
Don't notify.
Okay.
So if you use technology the right way, and I'm consultant especially in IT and technology.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that, because the light bulb, once it breaks down, sends information to the company.
That's more so
the
what I mean.
The company sends you a notification on your phone because you have an application saying, "Hey, your light bulb broke down. We can come tomorrow or offer us another day." 2 clicks. Yeah. They come tomorrow, another day.
Yeah.
They take the light bulb out. They put a new light bulb in. Yeah. They take the light bulb back to their manufacturing system and repair it. We use it
as
or whatever it does
instead
of going to trash and using new materials.
Exactly. And not going to a landfill.
Exactly. They just reuse the material. They save money in buying new materials. They avoid the volatility risk of materiality prices, the price of manufacturing new things, because you just have to simply repair it. But that's just like a common example. You have all kinds of examples there. The chairs that can be repaired with a couple of things. Think about your washing machine in your own house.
Yeah.
When you have a problem in your washing machine, is there anyone coming to repair? Or are they taking the washing machine away and you basically have to buy a new one? Have you ever called somebody to repair your washing machine?
Well,
sure, there are some people.
I'm sure your Bomi has done that many times.
So that's actually a good point that you touch on, because often people think, "Well, we're going back into the bowl where the milkman comes and blah blah blah," but it's not true.
Yeah,
we are combining certain things.
But I also have to say that there is a difference sometimes in the way that different generations view materials. And I'm not trying to be the old person here saying like, you guys don't care anymore and everything. Old. No,
just because clearly, you're about to be 30 years old.
No, I know. But my point is with that is that there is a difference in that appreciation for products and value in a product and the waste,
value in money as well.
Yeah.
And we can see it from us to my parents, to my grandparents.
Yeah. And then
to your parents and your grandparents, the value that they put into money and into fast fashion, for example. The fact is that if we, I can talk and how do you say, predict in German?
Predict?
No, predict. It's gospel, like putting out the gospel about being circular, being sustainable and that. But if I go in my own closet, I'm far from it.
Yeah.
But that's also I can find excuses, ecosystem, blah, blah, but that's just also a different type of generation. So we come also back to the part of being educating, taking new steps, and creating awareness and all of this, but also creating a system where certain things are possible.
But I think a lot of times too, I don't know, I think back to even different products where it did break down and I wanted it fixed, but the system didn't work for that. It was it was cheaper to buy a new one than to fix what you had.
And what does it do to you?
And the other thing is that then you think that the product isn't as good afterwards. Well, that's not true. The materials can be reused, and it does not mean that they are not as good the second time around. It's that they are being reused and repurposed in a way, whether it's upcycling into something new or it's being used in the same way, but being fixed and put back in, as opposed to, as we said before, ending up in a landfill somewhere, where that does nothing but cause more and more problems in the future and right now.
Did you know, because we said products don't have the same amount of value when they manufacture, but next to the fact that there's a whole remanufacturing thing going on in Amsterdam that I told I can't remember.
That whole recycle it, when you buy paper that's recycled paper and stuff. And there's some people who are all for that and other people who are like, no, I want the new stuff. Why would I want something that's recycled? Which is crazy.
But we are at times the same. We all are, because that's how we are wired. I can like.
But
like
we have
we
to
can say
rewire
this.
that then, because
but we
it's
can say
changing
this
that.
is crazy, but we all do it.
Yes,
I do it too.
At
And
times,
I'm
yeah, of
so
course.
passionate about all these things, and I understand all this. Oh, I think I understand to a certain degree all these things, but I still do it because they're aware. I still want to own my own car.
Yeah, or the fact that, like, you know, when a car gets into an accident, it loses half of its value on top of that, right? And it's like,
well,
why?
There's
Because
also
it's
regulatory
been,
things and stuff.
Sorry.
No, but you're
but there's,
the whole
it could
concept,
be a dent in the back that literally checked that was nothing else.
And the whole concept of depreciations also in the economy. If you buy a printer for your office, you can use a depreciation of the value of this printer in your tax declarations to get money back from the government.
Yeah.
Because you bought it.
Yeah.
But if you rent it, no.
Well, even here in Luxembourg last year, they gave, wasn't it like 50% like tax back on new bicycles, but that had nothing to do with.
No, they gave
what it was
like. But there's more like you're right, but there are a lot of, and that's where the systemic perspective has to be taken, because we can look at this law saying like, okay, well, this is very idiotic, because you can they talk about, the Green Party talks about we give 50% back on new electrical bikes, but if you buy reused electrical bikes, you don't get any money back from taxes.
Yeah.
And that's like, well, what has that to do with being green? Because you should buy used bikes and stuff. But legally speaking, there was a lot more complications, and I apologize because I didn't think we were talking about this, so I wasn't I don't have the notes here, but there's a lot of legal problems on how you could get money back and you couldn't get back on reused things, and that has nothing to do with the
But that's 100%
these bikes, but that's the economic system.
Exactly, and that's 100% where policies and politics come into creating the circular economy, and because it's so important. And
this is actually a great point where we can stop, because to what I have to say to here is like, we are talking about details.
Yeah.
They're trying to change small details about electrical bikes, but it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Because they start at the detail.
Exactly, as opposed to looking at the bigger picture and then...
Don't start at small things, fixing the small things, because that's never working.
Yeah.
Look at the why, create a why, create a system or a systemic perspective, then create the details, or even work. Because you're never able to, we can for the next 50 to 100 years can plug on strings, plug with different things, but it won't change our system. It won't change.
It won't even put a dent into it, really. I mean,
it might be a bit, but you're fully right.
But it's only going to ever stay.
Look at the Canadian youth from Canada. Look at the Canadian new taxation system that they create on CO2 emissions. It's great. It's fantastic. And please, every country do it.
Yes.
But then, the effect it has at the moment, almost none.
It's minimal.
It will have.
Yeah. But other things have to happen for that to have an effect, right? So that's that whole stepping back and changing many other things.
The macro perspective view.
Exactly.
Versus the linear thinking versus the systemic thinking.
But it's
circular, I don't want to say circular because it's like, micro versus macro.
Exactly.
Of course, but like micro also think macro, but in the way it's the...
No, I just want to make sure that when you say it, that people know that you're saying macro.
It's fine,
because sometimes it's hard. And for anyone,
macro.
There you go. Really say it slowly.
Okay, you're just behaving with me like you're behaving without trying. Yes, some pronunciation problems. It might be because of me. I don't know. Anyway, so the fact is that the system needs to change.
Yeah.
Perspective of how we think, and you as an educator. Now, not next episode, because in a second you will go into what we'll discuss next episode.
Yes.
But maybe actually now that we talk about it, my idea came, the next episode, the third episode, would be a great idea to talk a bit about education and young people. Because we are talking about our thinking, the wiring of how we're thinking. And we talk about psychology and stuff. The older we get, the more we witness, the more the value of experience. What is the value of experience? Brain-wise, if you want to put a metaphor of the way we work, it's like tire tracks.
Well, experience is what makes you the person that you are.
Yes. What is experience? Though, if you put in the metaphor in your brain creates tire tracks. Yeah. And you keep going. Yeah. And you keep going. And the more you go over those tire tracks, the deeper the tire tracks get.
And the harder
it's got to get out and change.
That's 100%.
So how we can change the society is by building new tire tracks.
100%.
And not new 100%. one tire tracks that keep, but educating our children that they create millions of tire tracks, that there's no real tire tracks to go on, but be able to think systemically. Yeah. And I was very excited, actually.
Well,
and I will give you 4 weeks to prepare for this discussion. And I'm very excited to talk to you about your view as an educator on this.
Teaching the young. I think is always very important. So anyway. Okay. Well, I do think that that's a good place to leave it tonight.
Yeah.
I do think that you need to link a true definition to circular economy. So with that, we have decided to do a word of the week, which obviously we'll be releasing with every episode, which is bi-weekly, but it is a word of the week. And we think it's pretty fitting.
We actually will release a word of the week weekly.
Oh, okay. So
but you're going to have to follow me or Diana on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We're not so much about it. So these other 3 ones, you have to follow us on that, or just go on my website on a weekly basis. You will find an extra spot on there where we have a word of the week category next to the podcast. And you can follow that on that, and we will update that on the weekly basis.
And basically, it's just to kind of like add into your circular economy vocab. Because a lot of times, a lot of these words get kind of thrown around and you have no idea what they mean. As it is in every single, area of work, there's different words that are used. And people, if you're not in that area, it's hard to understand and kind of continue to go along. So as we discuss with you guys and share these podcasts, we will also be kind of providing some definitions into some of these circular economy words. With that, the word of the week for this week is circular economy. We found it pretty fitting given the fact that the first week is really around what is the circular economy. So we will provide the textbook definition to circular economy in the link below. As we said, we are going to be releasing these episodes bi-weekly. In the next episode, we are going to be talking to Thierry Andre, who is a specialist in the AML, anti-money laundering, and specifically in the financial and funds sector here in Luxembourg. And we're going to be discussing something very interesting that's just come out in new EU regulations and laws, in which...
Actually, it's not regulation and laws, but it's... ESG-driven amendments to the funds directives that are coming out, and they are not confirmed yet, but they will be. But it's a very interesting topic actually, because it looks at a wider perspective of what the future sustainability finance plans are for the European Union.
Oh, that is interesting.
Yeah,
I don't know much about it, so I am very much looking forward to talking to Thierry about it.
I will send you documents to read.
Okay, well, I'm going to have to do a little bit of research, so...
No, but it is actually a very interesting topic, and we talk about the wider perspective of the European Union and European Commission when it comes to sustainability financing for the European Union.
The collective efforts, kind of.
Yeah, with of course a focus on the circular economy and the Green Deal, where circular economy is a big deal, a big point of it.
Big deal. It's a big deal.
Can't promise it, but I would try to release a blog post beforehand on it, just for you to prepare if you would like to, with certain links where you can add some more information if it's any of your interest.
You don't need to do any preparation. It's just for information if you'd like to.
Yeah. So we're not in school here.
Yeah. Frank's making this very educational, but he's telling you that you need to come with homework. So
I'm
going to take that out.
I'll be in the chat if I don't get any questions or answers.
Professor Frank over here.
Done deal.
Okay.
No.
With that, good night.
With that, thank you very much, and happy Monday.
Live it up, live it up, live it up, live it up.